I'll try one.
Is corn a vegetable?
Yes.
Or is it a grain? I guess I don't know.
Questions?
When it's
You have
dry,
to go,
when it's dried, it's a grain.
Yeah.
When it's
All right.
fresh,
When
it's a
plant,
vegetable.
yeah.
It is 6:01. We'll call the meeting to order. Turn it over to you, Greg, for roll call.
Chairman Canfield,
Here.
Beecham,
Here.
Goldwalder,
Here.
Chauvin,
Here.
Spicer is absent.
I would move to excuse the absence of Tamil.
I'll support.
We have a motion and support. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Brings us to approval of the agenda.
Okay, the only thing that I was going to change here was, let's move an update from Greg Northrup up to after public comment, before action items.
And that was part of the manager's report?
Yes, that was part of the meeting.
Okay.
Okay.
I'll move to approve the agenda as amended.
Support.
We have a motion and support. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Brings us to approval of the minutes, first of the July 9th regular board meeting.
I would make a motion to approve the minutes as presented.
I'll support.
We have a motion and support. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. And then we have the closed session minutes from the same meeting.
I'd like to move to approve the closed session minutes.
And I'll support.
We have a motion and support. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Brings us to public comment for items not on the agenda. Hearing none, then we will move to the update on the biodigester. Greg, thank you.
Thank you. Looks like, go up there where you were.
Well,
It's a nice backdrop.
yes, it is. Was that on your cruise?
It wasn't, no. Let's see, how do I get to the C drive, where stuff is? Good. First of all, thanks for allowing me to come before you tonight. It's been a bit, so Greg and I agreed it was time I should show up again and talk about what's going on at the digester. I'd like to say that my last couple months have been enjoyable, but they haven't. We had some issues that we've been dealing with at the digester, and so I'll update you on those. It's too bad Tamila's not here though, because I did want to thank her for the arrangements she made with Valerie Brader, who is I think her title is Executive Director for Energy for Governor Snyder's office. And we had I think a very wonderful and successful tour that day. The mayor was there along with some others. The sun was shining, everything was working exactly how it was supposed to. So it was a really good event. And we got I think she was truly impressed with what we're trying to do, and truly impressed with what you as a community are trying to do, and what Light and Power has done in terms of where we're going. So that was my plus in July, and so it's always good to have some pluses to go with it. I thought I'd cover 6 issues tonight, and I'm obviously willing to answer any other questions that you have at this point in time. We were approached by one of your neighbors that lives on Howard Street about potential odor issues, and so I'll update you as to what we've been doing on that. We've been dealing with air quality issues at the site itself, and that ties into what the neighbor's concerns might be. We're doing some air testing. The biggest thing we've been dealing with is the solids issue, and I'll talk you through what that means and what the implications implications are for us as it relates to the facility. And then I'll talk about where we are in the ramp-up of the production of the electric process as part of our discussion tonight. So feel free to interrupt me at any point if you have questions. Over about the last 2 or 3 months, I've been approached as referrals from Tom Russo on 2 different calls from individuals concerned about odor in the St. Mary's Howard Street area. One woman I called back the same day that she called, told her what we were doing. She said, "Thank you for the information." I said, "If you have any further problems, please let me know. We'll be happy to chat with you." I received a second call, again routed through Tom, and I returned the individual's phone call, and they never called me back. And I tried on a couple of different occasions to reach the individual. I left my name, my phone number, and that kind of information. Subsequent to that, I'm not quite sure the sequence. I think Tom was approached by a gentleman by the name of Tracy Croft. Tom took him on a tour of the facility to show him what we're doing. I wasn't there, so I can't tell you directly what he was concerned about, but I think there was issues about potential concerns to human health and safety, odor issues, amongst other sets of issues. I think, I don't know, Tom, if you want to editorialize, but I think he was happy with the tour. He was happy with the transparency. On 7/29, Pam Landis met with Tom and him again at the plant to discuss his concerns. He represents supposedly a group of individuals that he hasn't identified to us. So we don't know how many people he's talking about. We don't know if it's 1. We don't know if it's 10. We don't know if it's 20. We went through what we're doing at the plant site to deal with potential odor issues. And I say potential because it's a fleeting thing. And so we want to make careful that we're responsibly dealing with the issue, and at the same time, I think there was some odor issues earlier on, but I suspect we've dealt with those. So you always have to be careful we're doing historical things as opposed to current things. So we sent him an email with a set of actions that we're pursuing on the 29th. We then told him we'd be back with him on about September the 8th with what it was that we had done, and does he still have concerns as it relates to issues that he brought to our attention. And we have not heard from him since we sent him the email, other than he confirmed that he got it, and he was supposedly sharing it with somebody, but we don't know who. So I don't know if you have anything to add to that, Tom. I think that's about it.
That's as much as I know. Yep.
We try to be responsive, and like I say, we will call him once we've completed the actions that we're taking, so that he doesn't have to call us as it relates to the issue. Air quality at the site. We've done a couple, 3 things since we started dealing with air quality, and I should say we had some issues with air quality because the wastewater treatment system was overloaded as a result of the solids problem, and I'll tell you what that looks like. But we've fixed it, and our water quality now is meeting the standards that are required by the low wastewater treatment plant. We've had a few hiccups, but basically we're well below the surcharge limits as of what we did in July. And so I'm confident we have the system operating the way it should be in terms of meeting the permit requirements that we have with the city, for the operations of the system, I'm sorry. I personally started to have some concerns about odor as it relates to the fog, the fats, oils, and greases, and it's an internal odor issue as opposed to an external odor issue. And for me, it got to the point I'm not sure that I felt comfortable that people would be there or having to work in that environment. I'm not suggesting there's any safety health issues as it relates to air quality, but as an environmental issue, odor is obviously an issue. And I was there at times when you'd be there for an hour or more, and you could walk out of there and people could tell where I was. So I was sensitive to the issue. Anyway, I'll leave it at that. Since then, we've done a couple things. One is we used to take the air from the outside for the blowers that we run that operates the wastewater treatment system. We reversed that, and now we take internal air and we use that air to run the blowers. That air is then forced through what's called the IFAS system. And so it mitigates basically the odor issues that we're capturing when we run it through the blowers. And you're taking a lot of air out of the building as a result of the exchanges that are occurring. Because the blowers, there's two main blowers. They run what's called the DAF, dissolved air flotation system. There's two of those. There's one blower for each system. And without getting too technical, we in essence blow air up through the water, and it helps with the separation process of separating solids from liquids. And, if you ask me to get much more detailed than that, then you get quickly past my level of expertise, but that's what it's doing. Greg probably has more knowledge of this than I do. But anyway, so we reversed where we're taking the air from. So we used to take internal air, or we used to take external air and bring it into the blowers. Now we've reversed that. We take internal air from the plant into the blowers, and then we work it through the IFAS system. So that made a huge difference once we did that. Secondly, we've installed a carbon filtration system on top of the fog tank. Basically, it's a big tank. All of the fumes that are coming off the fog have to go through the tank, and it's carbon treated. And so when it comes out, the air is not noxious, if you will, in terms of smell. That was installed Wednesday this week. We may take one further action, and that is to vent that to the ceiling. But right now they've told us that that should take care of the internal air issues. But I've said, well, let's test it and make sure that we're satisfied with what's going on. And to that point, I'm bringing in a company called Advanced Environmental Services. They're Grand Rapids based. On the 20th of August, we will do a test of the internal air quality of the facility. I guess I'm at the point where I want to assure myself that we're doing what we need to do to be responsive to the company that does the work for us, to be responsible to us as a community in terms of what we're doing. The test takes 2 weeks to process results, and towards the end of this month I'll have those results, and then I'll be able to know, are we doing what we need to do, or is there some further action that we should ask the contractor and the design people to take to further mitigate any odor issues. Okay.
You also capped the fog tank?
We did, yeah, thank you, Barry. Yeah, as part of, and thank you very much, that was an important step. The way the fog tank was originally designed, it's a cement bunker. But there were grates about this wide, and they ran about 6 feet long. And the grates were steel grates, so that you could actually see into the tank. And if we wanted to, as a fallback, we could actually always put fog in through the grates as opposed to the coupling that we have set up, where there's a 4-inch coupling that actually they pump the material in and it pumps into the tank. But it's a good fallback option. We've actually sealed it with neoprene and then sealed the inner edges of it so that the odor is all captured then going out through the carbon filter. And even before we installed the carbon filter, because we did that again, I could see another huge advancement in what's going on with the odor issue. So I have to be careful, because when I walk in there now, I'm looking for it not to smell, because I think perceptually it shouldn't. And I think it's been mitigated substantially, but we'll give it some time and let everybody else have their crack at it. And like I say, the air quality test we're going to do will tell us exactly where we are with air quality in the building itself. The solids removal hit us about in the beginning of May, and this is a diagram this is actually from an operating system that we have in the plant. And if you've been on the tours before, when you walk into the control room, when you walk into the controller, there's a screen up there that shows us exactly what's going on with the system at any point in time. And so, if you've been to the facilities before, here's the upflow and downflow tanks that you can see on the outside of the building, the reflow tank, which is the other major tank. While we're doing it, we measure what's the temperature of the tank at any given time. It's always supposed to be maintained at about 102 degrees. That's what makes the bugs happy, ultimately. And we know the percentage fill in terms of how much material is inside the tank at any point in time. The schematic shows what's happening in terms of what goes on. This is what's called the dozer. It's where the manure is dumped. And when the dozer is operating, when we take manure out of the dozer and put it into the system, this yellow line that you see here will activate, and that shows the operator that we're actually pumping manure from the holding tank here into the system itself. Okay. We do the same thing with the fog tank, and this is the fog tank as it's represented. It shows us what's the temperature of the fog tank, and we try to keep it around 90 degrees. That way we keep the fog in a liquid state as opposed to becoming hard and crusty. If you think about lard, for example, if you let it get cold, it'll get really hard. So we keep it at temperature, and again, this shows the percentage of materials that are in the tank, so we always know exactly how much material we've got at any point in time in the tank. When we pull materials out of the downflow tank, because after everything's gone through the system, they go into the reflow, it goes to the upflow, finishes in the downflow, and we pull material out of the reflow, it goes to this holding tank over here. It's just called the separator holding tank, and it's the material that's been taken out of the system that's no longer useful to us. We've taken the energy out of it, it's ready to process. We then run it through what's called a separator, and the separator separates the solids material from the liquids material. So the separator is supposed to pull the solids out of it, leave it as a liquid material, and then the liquids flow back into our wastewater treatment system to be treated. Okay? And just to be clear, no liquids leave the site that haven't been treated by the wastewater treatment site. Okay, that's where we maintain compliance with the city's permits for how we operate the wastewater treatment plant. The problem we were getting, the system as designed, is that the separator was not pulling out enough solids, and so the solids were being sent back into the system, and that's what was jamming up the wastewater treatment side of the equation, because we were dealing with lots more solids than we anticipated over and above what we knew we were going to get from Lighthouse. So remember, because we're taking liquid waste from Lighthouse, we pull the solids out of their liquid waste, and that's the solids that we thought we were dealing with. But because this equipment, though, didn't pull the solids out that it was supposed to, it was putting more solids into the system. That looks like this shot was one that we took, and this is what the solids look like when you don't take the solids out of the water. It's a real dark color. You can put your hand in it. You can feel the grittiness of it, if you will. It includes manure that's obviously been processed through the system, as well as dead bugs, because the bugs in the wastewater treatment system ultimately die, and they keep replacing themselves, but they're part of the solid material that has to be dealt with. Okay. So this is what the water was looking like that we were getting out of the system. There was lots of discussion about what's the best way to solve the problem. So first of all, we went back to the manufacturer of the separator and said, is the equipment doing what it's supposed to? We don't think so. And when I say we, it's Rockford Construction, Williams & Works, the engineering design firm that did the civil work for us on the wastewater treatment system. And so we spent some time assessing whether the equipment was doing what it was supposed to. We are also looking at what other things could we do to complement the way the system should run. So we started looking at the use of polymers. And polymers are material that actually, when you inject it into a liquid base, it causes the solids to collect. That's how you capture the solids ultimately. And we're doing that with the wastewater treatment system for the Lighthouse material. We use polymers to capture the 2%. And then the system, if you've ever been up on top of the DAF, it actually skims off the solids that are collected through the process, and then those solids from the wastewater, from the Lighthouse materials, they actually go into the system to process, and that was the intent, that we would get energy value out of what we got from Lighthouse. Because there was so much material in the system, though, we started collecting lots of material in the DAF that wasn't designed to handle, and we started getting caught up in lots of heavy-duty stuff that were coming out of the system, because it was doing what it was supposed to, but not what it was designed to supposed to handle. And we've had some spills where we just had material that we couldn't deal with. And I've had people come in and pump out our system so that we can meet our requirements in terms of obligations that we have without causing external problems to anybody else. And so So we started looking at the use of polymers at the point of the separator, and we also have put in something called a screw press, which basically takes liquids, tries to press the solids out of it, capture the solids so that you end up with just liquid. And the way this is set up now is, I'll go back to this other system in a minute. Let me do this while I'm still here. I know what I'm doing. If you notice the date on this file, it's July 31st, so a couple weeks ago. This is what the water looks like now that's coming out of the separator, okay? So if you can compare that with what I showed you visually a moment ago, this is what we're getting. And there's still some chunks of solids in there. And what we're doing the fine-tuning on right now is they believe that if we properly fine-tune the screw press, we'll pull these materials out and we'll put the screw press, we put the screw press in front of the separator. So the system, the stuff that comes out of the downflow tank goes to the screw press first, will then be treated with polymers, and then go to the separator. So we take out the heavy materials. The separator's already taken out a lot of what you can see in terms of the color difference. And we're already starting to see we no longer have problems now with too many solids in our system. And when you say, you know, so what's that going to do for us? Well, one is to make sure we never have a problem with the wastewater treatment system causing odors, because we don't have materials in there that are overwhelming the system for what it was designed to do, because we weren't capturing it properly. It's about that simple, at least for our purposes in terms of what we're trying to explain. And so we went through a testing process. And as I say, this was 731. So now we're putting in the polymer system on a permanent basis because it's doing what it's supposed to. We borrowed a system from one of the treatment companies that gave us the system so we could trial this out and make sure it was going to work. Because the other thing I was concerned about, I don't want them to say, well, this is going to fix it, and then we find out it doesn't fix it because we didn't do a trial test. I've already got enough angst going on, so I don't need to add to my angst with additional things that don't do anything for us. So, coming back to here, so what we've done now is in between here and the separator, there's a screw press installed. And then we've also installed a polymer injection system. So those two pieces of equipment are the way to think about it, are installed here in front of the separator. So that when the material gets to the separator, it's dealing with just the fine stuff that it was supposed to deal with, and it doesn't overclog it. We're still going to have a little bit more discussion with the separator people, because we think we want to fine-tune the screen that's used in the separation process now that we know what we got. This caused me to be deeply concerned about overloading the system and causing some kind of potential problem that none of us in this room would want to deal with. So I continued to not force the system to fully operate as it relates to the generation side when we're trying to deal with these kinds of problems. To me, it made no sense, and I'd rather take the financial risk to not do something that's really stupid in the desire to get to some production level when I know I've got problems in the system and I know it could cause potential serious problems in your wastewater treatment complex, et cetera, et cetera. And those are our responsibilities to fix. And so I'm as confident as I can be that we've solved the problem. The good news for me, if there was any good news in all of this, was as we were dealing with this, Rockford, the engineering companies and the other subcontractors, nobody was doing this. Everybody was coming to the table still and still working to solve the problem. If I didn't see that kind of collaboration, cooperation, then I would have had really deep concerns about where we were, but everybody's doing that to this day. So it's not the best situation. Some of the design issues will be things that we will discuss afterwards. But first of all, my mission is to get it fixed and get it running and do it in a way that works through the collaborative process with the people that are still there. So that's the solids issue. And I can talk about it more, but it's that black stuff you saw, it's nasty when it starts to get cumulative. in its form. And it's just difficult to deal with. And we were not designed to deal with it at the rate we were capturing it. Just bad design. But everybody admits that, and so we're fixing it. The other thing we completed just this past week, we did a major overhaul of the engine that's required for warranty purposes, and everything looks fine. They were on site for 2 days to doing that work. We also relocated the radiator for the engine, which was originally outside, and this past winter was causing us some operating problems, and we relocated it to the roof. And the manufacturer did that at their cost, because that was where they put it originally was not a good place to put it in terms of the operation of the equipment, and so they were fixing that on their time. But we took that action while they were here doing the maintenance, so we could get both things done at the same time. It wasn't a problem for us this summer, but it might be a problem this coming winter, and I wanted it dealt with before we got to the winter, so it was timely to do that. To date, we've generated almost 1 million kilowatt hours of power. It's not where we need to be at this point in time, but thanks to the cooperation of Lowline Power, you've been buying the power that I've generated, just not at the price, not in the billing sense the way we agreed to, and we came to a really good compromise. You're getting energy. It's renewable energy. It qualifies for what's called MIREX, which is the renewable energy credits that we're all looking to generate. So from that standpoint, I was very pleased with the support that you gave us, and I'm looking now in the next 2 weeks to really ramp things up. Hopefully there's no other problems. And I said this before, so I say that with some degree of concern, but if you asked me would I do this again, and I'd say of course. I might be a little bit smarter about some of the things we do, as will be my contractors and the engineering design companies, but it's still a great system. It still does what it's supposed to do. We still take waste stream and we create energy out of it in a way that makes good sense. So that's where we are.
Well, great.
Be happy to answer any questions or dive into it. Yep.
I've got a question. These type of systems that we toured in Germany, they mostly used, grains and things like that. I guess were there new things you learned from this, or was there? I guess what I'm wondering is, these are like a lot of. Do you see these kind of issues with those systems, or is this unique to using fog as the primary?
No, the primary difference. It's an interesting question you raised, because the primary difference was all of the systems in Germany, basically they're all farm-based or egg-based, as you saw.
Mm-hmm.
They take the liquid waste that's coming off here and they land apply it. We take the liquid waste, we have to send back the digestate to the Swiss lane as part of the getting rid of the solids, and we have to process the water, because we can't inject the water into your wastewater treatment system as it is when it comes out of the system. And so this process here is something that typically they wouldn't see because of the way they are able to deal with the liquid waste. And having said that, though they thought that this would do what it would do in terms of separating solids, and if you've been to the site before, we have a bin there where we capture the digestate. It does exactly what it's supposed to. It doesn't smell. You can pick it up, put it in your hand, doesn't smell. And we've treated it in a way that we've gotten all the energy out of it. But there was too much water with solids going out that should have been in that pit, because it should have been part of what was going back as digestate, ultimately.
Greg, go ahead.
That answer your question, right?
Yeah, so there was nothing about the type of material used for the fuel was like being fog versus silage or anything that didn't.
No, it's just
okay.
It was just one of the contractors said to me, that well, we put this on a farm, we wouldn't have these problems. And I said to him, we weren't putting this on a farm. That's why you were part of this process, So it's a different circumstance. that we didn't anticipate as well as we should have. It's really, Andrew, I think it's a design problem. I don't think there's anything wrong with the system itself. It's just a design problem, and that the equipment that they specified wasn't doing what it was supposed to do.
Okay.
That's the way I view this.
So earlier when you're having trouble getting the bugs happy, or, you know, so to speak, that was kind of due to the fog versus the silage, was that? Because I remember some months ago you're having trouble trying to get the like the bacteria up to the right level, and you had to kind of, you know, try again a few times or get it started a few times. And
Well, part of it was...
or was it just that they were
having all
getting
this stuff
overloaded?
floating around the system.
Okay.
If you can imagine, I had all this, the solids, as we call that, liquid, okay? It's all circulating through the system. So now I got volume in there, it's not doing anything for us.
Right, okay.
And that's why, as I said earlier, I got to the point where it didn't make sense for me to force more volume in when we're dealing responsibly with the volume we got.
Mm-hmm.
That's what was happening to us.
Okay. That makes sense. Thank you.
Could there be potential, and what would cost be, so to speak, for land application of the liquids as opposed to the process we're using?
Well, the answer obviously is yes. We could bring tanker trucks in, you know, to take it away. If we could find places where we could apply it.
Is there any value to it?
I think the economics would say, Greg, it does make sense, you know. But I haven't run the numbers to
Yeah,
see.
no, just a question I'm throwing out, because we didn't anticipate this problem.
Yeah.
Now that we do have the problem, is the technology the better solution, or is the potential for finding a place for land application as good or better a solution?
I haven't looked at it. It's a good
Yeah.
question. I think I'm forcing Rockford and the engineering companies to fix what should have been.
Oh,
fixed in the
I
first
understand.
place. So I think that's my track right now. And what you ask is a question, maybe a fallback option that we should evaluate if it continues to be a problem. But when I saw the clear liquid that I showed you on 731, Steve Williams was a little bit concerned. I said, so it looks to me like we've solved the problem. He said, we've made huge strides in dealing with it. And I don't know if he was just being conservative in his response, knowing that we've seen good results now for 2 weeks. So I said, I don't see why we should have a change, you know,
Right.
in results. So
Right.
it seems to be going in the right direction. One of the things I do every time I go to the site now, there's a pipe off the side of the separator. There's a big pipe that comes out where the water goes, and we put in a tap underneath that pipe. So one of my first things I do is I just go over and turn on the tap and see what the clarity of the liquid is. And so far it runs like what I showed you in the first picture, or the picture where it's fixed. So, but good question, and I'll take a look at it, Greg. Keep you tuned in. Thanks again for having me. Thanks for your patience.
Are you currently working with any other communities or any other projects?
Yeah, we have quite a few, Perry. There's a couple food processing companies we're working with, kind of like Lighthouse, except even more waste generation at the food company itself, where we could actually treat the waste, organic waste on site as part of the thought process, but the same principles, you know, are being applied at this point in time. I do it a little bit with caution, making sure we're always keeping this thing on track, because this is our model. This is the baby that says you guys actually know what you're doing. Fortunately, every time we bring people here, they're all impressed with what they see. It does what it's supposed to do for the most part. And these kind of things, I've been dealing with them in a way that you don't want to hear about, but that's not been pleasant. But on the other hand, when we have people out, they see what's going on, they understand what we're trying to do. It's really exciting, you know. So it's a good place to be, and it's the right thing to do. Ultimately, I it's interesting too. We have contracts for fog, as you know, to supply the system. I was contacted about a month ago, maybe a month and a half ago, by a gentleman that deals with recycling dairy waste. And they used to supply the Fremont facility, which has been shut down now for 4 or 5 months. There's this whole network of people that pick up expired dairy product. And he said, "Can you help me?" And I said, "I could look at it, you know." So what happens when you have these things in place, then people know who you are, they start coming to you. So, and I had a brewery come to me through a hauler. "Could you take our stuff?" I said, "I don't know. You know, I need to look at it, I need to do lab tests." But the good news on that is that that's giving me a lot of comfort that there's other sources. If everything, the fog guys, for instance, should go wacko for some reason, I got other options, and I'm building on those options as we speak. So, and we wouldn't see those if we weren't here, you know.
And you might not know this or not, and it's sometimes just what you read or whatever. So the Fremont project, it was working, but there's a dispute between the city, and isn't it more of a dispute than it is that it's not working correctly? Or
No, it's and this is, I have some knowledge, direct knowledge of it, but much of what I'll tell you is third hand. It's a dispute between the investors and the primary operator. The operator, for example, said to the MDEQ, "I don't need to follow your rules about land application." One of the issues, Greg, about the downside of land application is you can't do it in the wintertime.
right?
Well, they were doing it regardless of what the rules were. Well, you don't do that with DEQ. They have a much bigger hammer, and this guy was in their face. And that was causing them serious regulatory problems. And I think that started to lead to the shutdown of the facility. They have a different model, too. They built their facility to take any kind of feedstock, organic feedstock, that might be out there. And because of it, it's 3 times the size of ours as it relates to the storage facility, because they needed a way to handle all sorts of different materials. Because they didn't know from day one, we're only going to get lighthouse, we're only going to get fog, and we're only going to get manure. I mean, that's what we designed for. They were driving trucks all over the Midwest of the United States looking for stuff. And I think that the other breakdown was their financial model couldn't support what they were doing. They were 3.2 megawatts. They did actually run at full power for some short period of time, but they were also supporting 12 people on their payroll. We have 1 person, if we run the way we're supposed to in Lowell, for a system that's about the third of their size. So if you look at the ratio of people to size, again, the model didn't work. And there's some other issues going on. But if I hope that the community's been in contact with the B, because they're trying to figure out if we could be helpful, and we have had some discussions with people that are interested in maybe trying to figure out how to bring it back. I'd love to see it back in some form or fashion, because it's just another one of those facilities we could use if it's done right. But it was a little bit over the top the way they built it. It's a Cadillac system, trying to feed it Pinto feedstock kind of processes. It's just not good design. Except there's ran without some of the problems I'm having, so maybe it was better design.
Are there any others that you're pursuing with, like, municipal?
Not with any municipals right now.
Okay.
I figure I better wait and make sure this is running before I start talking about what I'm doing. And I'm pretty comfortable with where we are, but I would like to be more comfortable before I have those kind of conversations.
Is it still going to end up at the efficiency that you were expecting in terms of cost or energy efficiency?
Yeah.
This isn't going to hurt that at all, or?
No, actually, one of the things that I always look at, this is the percent of methane gas that's being produced by the system. The design was 54 to 56% methane, okay? And that gives you X amount of BTUs when you put it into an engine. The performance has actually always been running about 68 to 72% methane. So what that says is we're getting really good content of methane being created by the system. So 54 versus 70. So we're getting a much better percentage of methane content than what we anticipate, which is what helps us get us operating performance on the engine. So from that standpoint, there's lots of things in the design that you can see the real pluses about the way the system's working. So.
Nice.
Thanks, Greg.
Good.
Yeah, thank you very much
Thank
for
you.
coming in and updating us. We're looking forward to seeing this thing purring like a kid.
I'm looking forward to it too. Mr.
And
Chairman.
I want to thank you for moving forward and addressing the odors with the fog and everything, because I know that when we went to Germany, again, fog wasn't part of it, and that wasn't, at the time, that wasn't our concern was the manure smell. Well, and I think I appreciate that you're, addressing that, capping it, putting filters on and that type of thing. So.
It's what we need to do.
You're
The
spending-
other thing I do, so you know, when I do my tour, the first thing I always do is drive over to the St. Mary's parking lot, and I sit there and test the air myself. So, like I say, there was some odor issues early on from the wastewater treatment system. One day, I think, around Easter Sunday, if I recall, or Good Friday.
Good Friday, for sure.
There was a fog was sitting on top of Lowell, and we were having some problems with wastewater. And I think the fog obviously pushed down on the odor problem, and then concentrated it in a way that was a problem. I could clearly see that happening. It was just the way things came together, unfortunately. But if the wastewater treatment system runs the way it's supposed to, you don't have that much odor coming off it, and it's more of a like a natural smelling kind of. It's like a musty odor, a little bit of a musty odor. The fog is nasty, or the odor is much more concentrated, much more obnoxious.
Thank you.
Good.
Thank you.
Tom, can I just pull this out of here and is there an eject? I'm gonna break your computer. Good, thank you, everybody. Have a good evening.
Thanks,
Thank
Greg.
you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
You too.
Move on with action items.
All right. Review the Lowline Power Annual EO and REP reports. We have reviewed the EO report previously. We did that shortly after the beginning of the year, but we have reports that we have to file with the Michigan Public Service Commission in June of each year. And so there's a formal report that we do. And then after that, we have to also provide our customers with a report on how well or how we are faring with respect to meeting the requirements of the legislation. So that's what I handed out a few minutes ago, is our annual report. It will go out in the next billing cycle to our customers. And we'll just walk through it quickly. It is just a report that shows that we're meeting the requirements, what we're doing for EO. It talks a little bit about our partnering with Flat River Outreach and what we've done with energy savings for low-income families in our community, and what we've done with LED lights. When we first started this back in 2008, the big thing was CFLs. CFLs are now being overtaken by LEDs, so we're going through basically a second round of implementing lighting because the LEDs are so much more efficient than the compact fluorescents. They're still more expensive, however, and so we do have some incentives that we offer, not just handing out light bulbs, but you can go to other places like Home Depot and Lowe's and so on and so forth, and they have rebates, and we offer rebates if you come back and show us that you've installed LEDs, that type of thing. So it explains a little bit about what we've done in our commercial programs. It shows exactly where we were with respect to our goals. So for our EO credits that we generated in 2014, our goal was 739,000 kilowatt hours. We actually saved 1,055,000, and our goal for next year is 634. And our goal is less because we get to carry over those extra credits that we earned last year in 2014. We've consistently done this. I think there was 1 year since 2008 where our expenses on our EO program were over budget. But consistently through that time period, we've been under budget. Our budget for 2014 in the EO program was $122,000. We ended up spending $107,000. Our budget for 2015 is $112,000. And again, we were under budget, but not only were we under budget, we saved a third more kilowatt hours. We had 1 million kilowatt hours saved instead of 755,000 kilowatt hours saved. So again, kudos to Sharon and the way that we set up the program and doing a lot of it internally, not using as many consultants and contractors at this point. And I think we're having a lot better success. We're reaching more commercial customers. We're getting more involvement, and the program is moving along real well. Kind of flip over to the other side. It talks a little bit about our renewable energy plan. Again, we are exceeding what we need to do. By 2014, we had to have 5% of our renewable energy, 5% of our total portfolio coming from renewable energy. We ended up with about 8.2% by the end of 2014. After we get the biodigester online and our renewable energy credits from Granger and North American Resources on the landfill gas, I think I mentioned before, we'll be close to 20%. We'll be one of the leading communities in the state with regard to how much of our portfolio comes from renewable. We also have to show what our what they call our incremental cost of compliance is. That's how much more does it cost us to be putting this renewable energy into our portfolio than if we had not had renewable energy. That incremental cost of compliance for 2014 was $139,000. That's how much more it costs us to be doing renewable than not renewable. Most of that is because the market is still so low. Ever since the economic decline in 2008 and 2009, the cost of electricity has stayed fairly consistent on the market and is low compared to what it had been. For example, when natural gas prices were high and hit $14 an MMBTU, that type of thing. So we do have a cost involved in providing renewable energy. Next year, our anticipated cost is going to be about double what it was last year, and that's primarily because this year we have to be at 10% of our portfolio. Last year, we only had to be at the 5%. So the cost to comply will be about double for next year. The last section in the middle there is talks about the cost to our customers. We charge a $3 per month cost to our residential customers for this renewable energy program. The average residential customer is expected to save $3.61 each month because of our renewable energy program that we put in place and all the kilowatts we've saved over the last 7 years. And they should expect that they're going to have to spend less in their electric bill by $3.08 because we're doing renewable energy or energy efficiency instead of having to build new coal-fired generation in the state of Michigan. So that's the thumbnail sketch of this report. This is probably the third or fourth year we've put it out in this format. We've got good feedback on it. It's pretty straightforward and informs our customers where we are, what we're doing. And so we went one more year with this format. And one of the things we'll talk about a little later, but there is the potential with the new energy legislation in Michigan that Governor Snyder is promoting that these programs will go away or at least phase out over the next several years. So we may not be involved in this from a reporting standpoint, but I still think that it's something that's valuable for our customers to keep working with energy efficiency, helping them save money. It helps us in the long run, even though it's always hard to think about from a marketing standpoint, convincing customers or showing customers and giving customers opportunities to buy less of your product. I mean, it doesn't make much sense from an economic standpoint, but being a municipal utility, I think that's what we do. So, that's the first thing, to review those reports. The second document in your packet, or the one that's right behind the memo, I guess, is the Renewable Energy Annual Report. So the Renewable Energy Annual Report is something that we have to update every 2 years. Not only do we have to file the report that indicates what we've done, we have to submit a revision to our plan that shows where we think we are and where we're going. So there should be a 3 or 4 page document called the Renewable Energy Annual Report. That also indicates what our plan is going to be for the remainder of the period that this legislation is now enacted for. And we also, when we file this, we have to give our customers, we have to give the public the opportunity to comment on it. So part of what we do in August every 2 years is we go over this report, and then when we're done reviewing it, Mr. Chairman, you'll open it up for a public hearing for comments. And then after that, if there's no major comments against the report or the plan, then I'll ask you to go ahead and adopt the plan for the next 2 years. So again, just to walk through this report quickly, a lot of it is it's just in a format that is required by the Michigan Public Service Commission as we file. But on the second page, it basically shows the number of renewable energy credits that we accumulated during the year 2014. Those credits were 7,346 credits. We received an additional 1,186 credits because there's incentives for being able to produce those credits during on-peak times. And so our landfill gas and our biodigester both produce renewable energy credits during the on-peak time, so we get kind of a bonus with those, some incentive credits. So that shows what the credits were that we earned. We also had a large number of credits that we didn't really need, and so we sold credits to some of the other municipal utilities in Michigan that were a little behind in meeting their goal for 2014. We sold 6,466 credits to other municipal utilities. So this report shows that. We go over a couple more pages, and it shows where we got those credits from. Our landfill gas with Granger and North American Resources are the 2 landfill gas sites that we obtain renewable energy credits from. The biodigester doesn't show on this report because it was for calendar year 2014. We didn't get the biodigester up and running until 2015, so that'll show on next year's report. But as you go on to page 5, it gives the Michigan Public Service Commission the information that we have added a biodigester, a 0.8 megawatt capacity facility that they expect to start sometime in May, which coincides when we actually started receiving kilowatt hours from the biodigester. So that's all online, and the Michigan Public Service Commission is aware of that, and even more so now after the visit from Valerie Brader. She didn't recognize that there was a utility grade system like this in the state, so she was very excited about that, and has asked that we keep in touch with her about other opportunities and helping other communities and so forth with this kind of a program. It kind of finishes up with some of the dollars. Our plan is supposed to run from 2015 until 2029, so it takes that incremental cost of compliance, multiplies it over the next 14 years, and figures out what this total cost will be for us, and shows what our plan will be going forward for the next 14 years. It also shows that we, on the bottom of page 5, that we had some capital expenditures for the biodigester of $665,000. And the last page of this document shows that we actually used 3,353 kilowatt hours that we had banked to meet our 5% for this year. So we met the goal, we met the requirement for Public Act 295 for 2014. Again, a thumbnail sketch of what our plan looks like, and again, it's based on landfill gas. We're on target, we're ahead of target with that, and with the biodigester, when that's in full capacity, we'll be at almost 20% instead of 10. Any questions?
The 6,500 renewable energy credits that we sold, what kind of revenue did that produce for us?
About $3,000.
Okay.
Yeah, they're going for about 50 cents a rec right now,
Okay.
because there's plenty of them out there. At some point in time, if the renewable portfolio standard were to go higher and people needed more credits, then the value of those recs would go up. They also expire, and I believe they expire in the 4th year after they were created, so you only have a certain amount of time to use them and or sell them to someone else who needs them in Michigan.
Right.
There is a market outside of Michigan, and there's no limitation on how old those recs have to be or can be in order to buy them. So at MPPA, we're looking at what those outside of Michigan markets might be and whether we have the potential to sell recs into those markets as well. But we have accumulated quite a number of recs, and that's why I included this last page. In that packet of information, one of the things that MPPA did was they put together a projection of where they thought each municipal utility would be in terms of having excess recs based on what might happen with the renewable portfolio standard. So if it stayed at 10%, that's the first area on that graph, we would, in the year 2025, we would have excess recs of over 100,000. Based on the landfill gas that we have and the biodigester. If at some point in time in 2016, for example, the portfolio standard went to 15%, then you can see the graph comes down, and we would have less extra recs available if it went to 15%. If it went to 20% and was implemented in 2016, we'd be down to maybe 60 or 70,000 excess renewable energy credits. So again, it depends on what happens with our renewable portfolio standard, how many extra renewable energy credits we have, and that also impacts what the value of those credits would be, as well as if we can sell those in an outside of Michigan market. So that's the status of the renewable energy plan.
All right, at this point, we'll open it to public comment.
We'll open it to public comment. Any comments, Mr. Hall?
No.
Oh.
Hearing no comment, then we will move to entertain a motion to accept the renewable energy plan.
Just trying to figure out what we did with it. But I'll move we accept the plan as presented.
I support.
We have a motion and support. If there's no further discussion, all those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? Motion carries.
Thank you. Second real action item on the agenda is the MERS COLA. And again, as you remember, every year we go through a process where we get an evaluation that tells us what it would cost to give our retirees a cost of living increase. A couple, 3 years ago, we went to picking that percentage, choosing it ourselves instead of going with the standard 2% that MERS offered. We had skipped that standard 2% a couple of years, and we had to make that up to get back in the 2% program. When you go to the select your own percentage, there is no penalty if you don't offer one in a given year. It's your option. There's nothing to catch up, so to speak, like there is when you're in the MERS 2% plan. So, with that being said, I provided you some information. We looked at the Internal Revenue Social Security site and found out that they're projecting a 0% increase in cost of living to Social Security this year. The last couple of years, as I mentioned, we followed what the IRS recommendation was. I put a little table together that shows you